morning, welcome to How to Stay Married So Far. Mark is already puffing and panting.
There should be a whole series of podcasts about before recording podcasts.
You should actually.
It's just a new subgenre.
Maybe we should just let the cameras roll while we're getting ready.
Yeah, and I think it would make an entire series that really gives us an insight into our relationships.
We always say that about Loose Women. It's all the stuff around it before we start.
It's the much better show that isn't, not better, but there's another entirely different show that's... well, we thought we'd talk about body image. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't joined, join. And if you can't stand us, sod off. So, but we are going to do How to Stay Married about. We've done a lot of this on Confessions of a Modern Parent, our other parenting podcast, and it always goes down very well, and it raises a lot of very emotional sort of stories and thoughts. Is body image.
Yeah, and I've had a real struggle with body image, and over the last few years things have really changed for me, and the way that I approach the whole ism that I have about it is very different, and I read a lot of stuff about it. I talk to a lot of women about it, but I was saying to Mark this morning, I've never heard anything about body confidence and body image from a couple. Never. I've never read anything about it. I've never heard anyone talk about it. I've never seen anyone on the telly.
Well, in relationship to how it runs between the two members of the relationship. Yeah.
And I think part of the reason for that, and this is going to be a very difficult conversation for us, because we have an extremely open relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing at least 8 people at the moment.
We talk about everything. We're great friends as well as husband and wife. But we both have we are on the spectrum of body dysmorphia, both of us.
Absolutely.
And we have talked about it more in the last few years than we ever did in the first decade and a half of our marriage that we did. And that's because it's so painful, and it's so secretive, and it's so personal, and it runs so deep for anyone that has problems with their body image and their body confidence. And I think I've often in this podcast spoken about the image that I saw as a child in the 70s, I think it was in The Joy of Sex. And it was a couple. You'll know this story because I've told this many times.
Is this the bearded man?
Yes, he was the bearded man.
Because he gave me my loathing of beards.
Yeah.
The man in the how to... I thought...
Beards and swinging penises.
Well, beards and swinging penises, but I've always connected... This is a terrible Freudian connection, but I've always connected the beard with the pubic hair because of that book. All I ever saw when I flicked through that book was his beard and his pubic hair.
Everyone's going to be looking on eBay now for an old book of Joy. We should get one, actually.
But I used to have nightmares. Where a bearded man would come towards me in the dream with a penis hanging out of his chin. Truly,
really?
It was the most... And he used to... It wasn't like a sexual abuse dream. He was just hanging around with a dick hanging out of his chin.
Well, maybe it's because you were a child and you were looking at his hair and looking at the size of his penis and sort of conflating the two, and then
inflating the two,
and then wondering about your own manhood.
But it's funny that you should mention that book, because I mean, this is a very...
I really think we should buy one, and we should go through it and do podcasts.
I think we should do the whole thing, because my mum had the lesbian version of that.
Oh.
There is a lesbian version.
Well, I suppose that's good, but I mean, that must have been quite hard for you.
It was strange. But no, I think that's a really interesting point, because that book was one of those first moments where you had some barometer on what body sort of normal was, because even at a young age you thought, well, this is a guidebook of some form, so they must be going for the average person. Do you know what I mean? And so I think all boys maybe...
So did you try and see his toe because of your problem with your toe?
Yeah, I was always worried about it. Yeah, I mean, so when we talk about body image...
But let me just go back to what that picture was, because it's not about body, actually.
Oh, right.
And I have spoken about this before in podcasts, and I probably will in the future, because it was such a striking image to me. And I've always thought about it through all my relationships. And it was the couple sitting either side of a wall. You know this story.
Yeah.
And... it's over the years of their marriage, this wall is building, and each brick has a word on it. So it's politics, religion,
is that in the book?
Money, sex. Yeah, and it's sort of 4 stages of the book.
I wasn't looking at the bricks.
Yeah, there's 4 stages. It's classic men and women.
I wasn't looking at the bricks and the words written on the bricks.
No, but let me explain. So he's sitting this side, she's sitting this side, and they're sitting each on a chair and they're talking really well, but then the bricks build. Each image, there's more bricks. The things that they're no longer talking about, until eventually there's a wall and they're both either side not being able to see or to talk to each other. And it was a really good, really graphic image that stuck with me from a child to now. And you know, I think we spend a lot of time, whether we're on YouTube or podcasts or whatever, berating ourselves and knocking at ourselves for all the things that we're not good at and that we want to improve. But I know one thing, we're really, really good communicators, and I think it's a passion in our lives, the way that we communicate with each other and with other people and through our work and everything. But I think when you have a body image problem, those are bricks that come up in a marriage, and you avoid the conversation like we have for the last decade and a half. As I say, we're talking about it more now.
Can I just ask though, as we're about to get going, talking about body image, I mean, it falls into so many different categories, doesn't it? I mean, it intersects things like, obviously, weight is attached to body image, lifestyle is attached to body image, age, body image in certain scenarios, whether it be in a public sphere or in an intimate personal sphere, between ourselves, intimately. Whether it be in a bikini, whether it be, all those kind of things. So there are
grades. But also there is when I look back and I was 36, 24, 36, which was Gina Lollobrigida measurements.
Who the hell's Gina Lollobrigida?
Sophia Loren. I was those measurements.
What's Gina Lollobrigida?
She's a very famous Italian actress. Oh. So those were my measurements. So you could say, in a sense, and it was also Marilyn Monroe's measurements, well, 40 actually. So you could say, at that time, I had a perfect female body, if you like. But in my head, I was repulsive. So I was body dysmorphic. So it doesn't even matter whether you're old, whether you're fat, whether you're this, whether you're that. We see enough people that we would say, but what do you mean? You're absolutely beautiful. Yeah. How can you think this? So it's the poison in your own mind, the stinking thinking that I learnt from you through AA. I love that phrase because it's the stinking thinking.
But do you think? I think issues around what we consider to be body image. Obviously, there's sort of shared ground between being a bloke and being a woman in terms of just the physicality. But there's a gulf of differences. An absolute sort of just enormous separation between what a man is kind of preoccupied by or with when it comes to their body image. I think for men, if I look back, when we said we were going to discuss this, and I look back over all of my relationships and how I felt about my body, it's always come from the perspective of strength, masculinity, sort of sexual potent, the ability, to look and appear sort of potent, if you like. And I mean that, I mean that in the sense of being attractive in that sort of
manly way,
strong and trying to get a ripped tummy. And, and I was working out, I had, when I look back and I actually think of what was going on for me around the age of 13, 14, just before I had my first relationship.
And what year would that have been?
So that was 83, 84. And, I've talked before that my first ever relationship was a 3 to 4 year relationship, so it was long. I can look back and think about the reason I went into a long-term relationship was because I did genuinely love the girl. We got on. She was she was an only child. There were so many similarities. So there was a real bond and a connection there. But also, if I'm really honest with myself, I think it was also a convenient way not to have to trouble myself with all those worries of repeatedly putting myself in a vulnerable position with women.
Very good point. How many people stay in a relationship because they can't bear the thought of having to go through all that, skin blistering.
So if I knew that one person really fancied me or liked me,
stay with them.
Stay with it. So
absolutely. But I did that too.
Did you?
Yeah. I think I stayed with people way longer than I wanted to be because I didn't have to have that worry of thinking what, and I think sometimes I didn't go for people that I actually maybe liked because I had this body dysmorphia. And
But everyone.
What I'd like to say is, though, first, nobody ever in my entire life has ever said anything negative to me about.
Well, I was just about to ask that. Have all of your partners always
No
been
man. Every man has always said to me, or they love me. I've always had really positive. Oh, you're very sexy. I've had that from people, men that just chat to me. I've had that from relationships. I have never, ever had anyone say anything. Or I have never caught an eye and thought, oh, that person's looking at me thinking I look disgusting. This all goes on in my own head. I'm standing there. I've been standing there all my life with an Uzi machine gun, with a machete, with a whip, with a cat and nine tails.
So I don't feel aroused. Sorry.
I have.
This is part of what I was going to talk about.
I've picked up all the weapons myself.
Brilliant.
Nobody has done that to me. So
you say that, but I've heard you when we're out and we're in public situations or if we're around pools and stuff like that. You are incredibly self-conscious and worried about what people might be thinking.
That's what I mean. It's what people. I mean, I've had some stuff done in the press, definitely. So, I got years ago. I got photographed, and they actually said, "How dare she go on the beach in a bikini?" And I was fat at that time. I have gone up and down all my life, and it was absolutely devastating to me. I was absolutely broken-hearted, and then there was a terrible massacre in Russia. I don't know if you remember that, ages ago, all those children were shot, like 2 days after the article came out. And I just went, oh my God, how dare I have these feelings? I hadn't gone to therapy in those days, you see. So I just suppressed them. I thought and then I turned another nastiness to myself. Oh, you shallow, fucking horrible woman. You're going on and on to you. You're hurt by this. And these children have been murdered. You're shallow. Of course, not understanding that I had a mental health condition.
Right.
I was really, really warped. And the papers doing that was just like, oh my God, everything that I've thought and everything that I felt is true, you know.
Well, you see, I mean, going back to when I was younger, I mean, although I was in one relationship, I was a maniacal bodybuilder at the age of 13,
That's
14.
why you've got those weird stretch marks.
Well, I've got stretch marks on my
back.
back, and the joke is I'm 5'10", but should have been much taller because my granddad was 6 foot whatever, and my dad was 6 foot whatever, and I for sure affected my physicality because of this. It's probably my first addiction, proper addiction.
I didn't know that.
Was bodybuilding, and if I look back,
Really, like how bad?
Well, I was talking to my mum about it to the point that you know how unhappy I was in the house that I was in with my mum's girlfriend, and. Every day I'd come home and I had barbells and everything, and I would do them in the morning before I went to school, and I would do them in the evening, even if she was in the same room, because it was a tiny house, and it was just a given that I would do them. And there's a photo somewhere of me down at my grandparents' kind of doing a sort of pretend stupid bodybuilder, and I'm seriously like, it's abnormal, the muscle tone for the age of the child.
And people could look at you and go, oh wow, look how fit, look how well, look how healthy you are.
Coming from a healthy
actually,
place
so often when people look like that, it's quite a different thing going on.
So I did that. So that, but at an early age, the idea of having a muscular body was my kind of insurance policy, that at least when it got to the point of taking my clothes off in any situation with any woman, or in any public situation, say swimming baths or whatever on holiday, I wouldn't, I was trying to stave off shame or worry or fear.
So was there something in your body that you were trying to hide, like...
My big toe.
Yeah, so you thought, if I really build this up, then they won't notice that I'm shorter or that was there...
No, I never felt short.
No, what was your body dysmorphia? Where was it? Or was it the whole of you?
It was the whole of me, and it always has been. I mean, I've never liked myself, and so I think it was a sort of it was an overall attempt. It was an overall attempt. I mean, the funny story that always runs, I do remember when I was younger, I've got this bad toenail that grows bad, and it has done ever since I was a baby. I was born with it, and it grows, and then it comes off, and then it grows back in the same way. And I do remember at a very young age thinking, absolutely bricking it, thinking, shitting hell, you'd watch a film like 9.5 Weeks or something, and I'd be thinking, okay, I can do that. I could do that with the ice. What the fuck do I do when she gets to my toe? what the fuck do I do? How do I? And so I would craft ways on the bed of getting undressed and keeping my foot on the floor.
I love it. The men go through this.
Yeah, keeping my toe turned over and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's ludicrous, obviously. And then I saw something where there was foot fetishism or someone was licking. I was thinking, oh my God, what if she wants to kiss my tit? And I was, you know, so we all have those parts of the body, but that wasn't, the overwhelming feeling was one of total dissatisfaction with self. A total disbelief that anyone would want to be with me. So I felt that by physically enhancing myself, that at the very least, in a classic sort of bloke fashion, that box is ticked. And I've spent most of my adult male life, if I'm honest, really struggling with trying to return to something like that will sound.
It's funny because you saw a picture of yourself, didn't you, in Ibiza?
Yeah, I posted it on Instagram.
And no, but it's so interesting because you were out of sorts for a couple of days afterwards because you loved that photo and you wanted to get back to that photo. But I remember that being one of the saddest times in our relationship.
Right.
You know, you'd come out of rehab. I was in a total mental state myself. I wasn't in a good place at all. And you were on the Atkins diet and you were eating only meat and nothing else. And of course you'd given up alcohol and you were really struggling with your mental health. But hey, you were thin.
I know. And
so the photo looks great and you're there by the pool and you just, we were talking about this on Loose Women the other day.
It literally is just literal body image. Image of body. Yeah,
we were talking about this just on Tuesday with Denise Welsh on Loose Women, and she was saying, we were talking about body image, and she was saying, you know, at a time, she said, when I gave up drinking, when I gave up all of that, I put on 2 stone. And because she replaced drink with food for a bit. But she said, I was so happy, I was content, I was so relieved I've given up alcohol. I have this lovely husband, really good marriage. And she said, but you could see people looking at me like I was unwell. Now, she said, when I was really thin, she said I was self-medicating the whole time with all sorts of stuff. She wasn't eating. She had a lot of depression. But she said all the photos, all the images are of like, here I am. Because we do tie to it success and the perfect life when the body is looking. But one person's perfect is another person's horrific anyway. The whole thing is so fucked up. As soon as I start to talk about it, I want to pull my hair out. I want to pull my teeth out.
I feel like I've kind of hold the limelight a bit talking about that. The last final point I just want to make about that early relationship, because I think it's really interesting, because you have talked a lot about it. And I'm just curious to know where you were at around that age, because I remember being really hurt and not knowing how to deal with it, despite being brought up by a feminist and all that. Because I just don't think even in feminism, body image thing wasn't such a thing in the mid-80s.
I was going to say, that's why I'm really surprised you were feeling like that in the 80s.
Why?
Because I thought, you know, and obviously it's ludicrous of me, but I thought really the problem with men and their body image has really been over the last 5-8 years.
I'll tell you why that is.
Instagram.
But I'll tell you why that is, because I had kind of a curious insight and access to the male gay culture because of my mum's friends and the world that she went to, and they were incredibly body conscious.
So it was being fed to
you. So in a weird way, I think I was getting
versus...
some of it from there. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So like my mum's friends at work and stuff like that. But
actually, guys, if you have children, please listen to our podcast, Confessions of a Modern Parent on Body Image, because we talk a lot about how we are around our children affects our children by osmosis. You just got no idea.
But I remember my first girlfriend, Jane, and she, you know, she was a beautiful shape. I thought she was very attractive, and yet she would be bullied mercilessly. Or no, in fact, she wasn't bullied mercilessly. I remember we used to go clubbing with friends. No, hang on. But she was aware of it, she told me afterwards, but it wasn't happening directly to her. My friends would constantly comment on the size of her bottom and say it was too big and say it looked really good. And I felt such pain, but shame as well. I felt because I felt that my friends were saying, you don't know a girl, you haven't even got a girlfriend with a nice arse and da-da-da. And I hadn't, but I hadn't looked at her in that prejudging way. And then it was a weird, I'm trying to be really confessional here, but it was a weird moment where I think peer pressure turned me off her physically.
That's a dangerous. I almost wonder if we should put that bit out, because when the girls talk to me about this stuff and I say, oh, that's not the case. And the girls say, because with things like TikTok...
Don't forget, it was 84 and I loved her to bits.
No, I know, but what I'm saying, not your fault, I'm saying how awful that is what boys do to boys, because this is what the girls say to me that boys do to boys. I go, no, they don't. But then, you know, the girls were showing me TikTok, and, you know, these girls on TikTok, and then the comments that the boys make underneath about these girls. Wow. So that is true. That is what men do.
Well, yeah, no, but I also remember feeling incredibly protective, and I also remember thinking, and so slowly body image became a thing. And you know, the only other big notable for me in my relationships, which I'll talk about in a bit, was very much about my own physicality. And in a sense, when I look back at my life and body image in relationships, I always see myself as at my optimum when I was 17, 18. And I just see myself on a very slow descent.
Well, you know, that's kind of true. You know, we were only young once, and but you do a really good job of keeping fit and keeping well, and you look great for your age. But yeah, it's like I did a live the other day on this. I did a live Q&A on body image, and somebody said to me, I just don't know what to do. I'm so sad. You know, I don't think I'm ever going to have a flat stomach. My stomach is really squidgy and pudgy. And I said, accept it. How old are you? If you're 35 and you've never had a flat board stomach, you're probably never going to, you know? And that's okay. Just start to love it. Find a way to love it. And I squidge my stomach now and I go, but it's taken me a lifetime to get
But tell us about your earlier sort of experience. I mean, so I hear that you were very lucky in that you had no one, well, not lucky, you chose well, you know, partners who were very sort of constructive and positive about your body. But presumably
but was I choosing partners that were right for me, or was I choosing partners that just adored me?
And also,
because that was easier.
And also, even though they adored you, how did your own issues with your own body image impact on your, say, I'm not going into the nitty gritty, but into your own attitudes to intimacy and what have you? Because I've got strong opinions on where we're at and where
I think I'm very secretive because I don't like my body, and I think I've always been like that, and I've always been. Well, and other things, you know, there's other things. Life is complicated. Life was complicated for me a long time ago. But so I'm very protective of myself. And I think that low self-esteem is, in fact, I'm very, very blessed that my low self-esteem didn't cause me to choose unkind people, because I know there'll be listeners here that have. And I try and talk to the girls a lot about self-esteem, because I know how pivotal that is, how important that is when they're choosing partners. And in fact, does anyone with low self-esteem really choose a partner? Or do they go with somebody that really likes them? And that's what I say to Maddie. I said, make sure you ask yourself the question. I said, because I don't meet many grown women that when I say to them, have you ever actually really chosen somebody that you liked? Or have you just liked somebody that liked you? It stops people in their tracks. So listener, ask yourself that question, you know. And Maddie was like, and I know Maddie couldn't really fully absorb it at 17, but it will come to her many times through her life. She'll think about that conversation that I had with her, because it's an important distinction.
Because I'll tell you something which I think is an important contingent of this whole conversation. Obviously, we were younger, but I found and felt, and obviously as you get older, one's appetite and you're in a relationship and the honeymoon period kind of goes. But I've noticed that when we were sort of, you know, in our earlier years, you were far more willing to sort of let your body be seen, so to speak. Whereas I noticed over
I don't think so.
Well, no.
I don't think so. I think I've got better. I was much worse.
No, but one can sort of, you know, contingent part of that was the fact that alcohol helped, and I think since we've been in and I think alcohol does help. It helped me. It helps everyone, doesn't it? No, I don't mean help, and I'm certainly not saying that it helped you or I necessarily, though it did with me. Just have meaningless flings and all that kind of stuff. But it takes away those inhibitions, even with someone that you fancy or like and you want a relationship with. Having a drink, and I think this happens a lot in relationships, that a lot of women, and I think more men than you think.
Something like 80% of people have issues with their body.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is that even within long-term relationships, a lot of people watching this will probably only ever feel comfortable in making themselves vulnerable enough to be intimate and be seen by their partners when they've had a few drinks. And that's where I think that's an under sort of estimated or under evaluated reason why a lot of us drink, not just in the blind binge drinking in the pub, but we drink within our homes. I think it is a lubrication of sorts to get us to a place of feeling, I don't want to be thinking about my body. I don't want to be thinking if he thinks this or she thinks that. And so consequently we drink in order to just kind of soften the
And you know, there's whole
agony.
nations that look at us when we're talking like this and say, what the hell are you talking about? My German friend just doesn't know what we're talking about when we have these discussions. Because in Germany, you're naked, you can just be naked in front of everyone. We just don't have that nudity. Now, with that being said, I, as a child, didn't like nudity, the perfunctoriness of it.
Yeah.
And that caused a very, hard wiring in me. I didn't like it, and I still don't, not just body image, I just don't, I like to feel naked, don't get me wrong, and to be able to feel that and just not feel all the pressure of hating my body. For all my life I never looked at myself in the mirror, and now I do. If I have a shower, I will make myself stop and look at myself in the mirror, and it's fine. The world doesn't stop turning, and I'm not like the green-eyed monster. Yeah. But I still, if somebody, if we were the sort of couple, if you were the sort of man that would just come down and make your tea nude.
I can't. No. Well, but do you know why I can't stand that?
I don't like
it's the man in the bloody book with the dick coming out of his chin.
Yeah, I don't like it. And I never did. As a child, I never liked it. My parents were very easy with nudity, and I did it. Not like in a horrible, my mum touching me. No. But I just didn't, it was just something about me that just felt, I think even if I'd been born in Germany, the exact same person,
yes.
Just for me, and maybe it's my Arabness, but I just I like that something about it isn't on show the whole time. A nudist beach is the worst thing I could possibly, even if I'm totally dressed, I do not want to see people's bits jumping about.
But going back to this, I'm going to push it back a little bit more. You never truly accept when I say I think you're attractive, because I find you incredibly attractive.
No, I do accept it. I do accept that you do. But it's not about you. It's about, do I accept it? That's the trouble. I have no doubt in my mind that you think that I'm beautiful and that you love me and that you fancy me and all of those things. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. But if only it was that simple. It's you have so much doubt.
But I feel like we lose out a little bit.
Every single day, I say to you, you look great. Every single day. And yet, you would have it that I don't say that to you. But it's because you can't hear it. I can say it, but the true case of falls on deaf ears, isn't it? It's it falls on deaf ears.
Well, what about that sort of situation where, we've talked about this before, and I'm flagging this up as a kind of, I don't know if anyone else will relate to this detail. It's a curious one. So I feel like I'm at a particular place. I can get myself to a place of where I feel physically better about myself. I think, I'm looking better. Now is that moment. Last time I did Joe Wicks, you are sensational for me, feeling confident in the bedroom. But, no. But here's, and it's a big but.
You're shaking the camera.
And it's a big but. You've talked about this before, and I'm kind of teeing this up for you to go at. But whenever I've got myself to a place of feeling physically more confident and thereby theoretically in my stupid, very simple male head more attractive, I always ergo think that will lead to you finding me more attractive, being more insatiable. No, I know.
I say that all the time.
No, hang on. I'm just getting to the point I'm trying to make. You find me more insatiable. That all makes sense. You're right. But what happens is I put up a barrier because I then block it, don't I, in some way? Because
totally.
And I'm giving you this for free.
I'm agreeing.
And I'm saying, what is it that happens there? Because it's almost like I want to get to a place of feeling more attractive, that you want me more, that I'm kind of absent, that I'd be happy for you to run your hand down my abs and it would go dum 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 rather than and I'm like, as soon as I get to that place, but then suddenly my body image might be all right. But my head image is completely
exactly
fucked.
Well, because that is that addictive thinking. I mean, look at you now. Look in that t-shirt, right? Look at you. You look perfect.
Yeah, and all I'm seeing is the bag under my eye.
Exactly. So it's, why does the woman who goes on the diet and is doing really well and then gets to the last 10 pounds and stops and starts to eat again and go back up the scale again? It's the stinking thinking. It's the addictive behaviour that so many of us have. I have it just as much as you. It's like the other day, one of our daughters came down and was really worrying about something that actually she didn't need to be worrying about because it's so far off. And I suggested to her that today there was nothing else to worry about. So you came back you searched for something, and it gave me, oh my God, it took me back. Out of the blue, I had an epiphany, and I remembered at 10 years old saying to my mum, and in those days, of course, there was no discussions about what was going on with your mental. I remember saying to my mum, I get really worried. When I can't remember what I'm worrying about, I get panicked and I have to find something to worry about. I was talking about anxiety then. And my mum was like, because it was the 70s, oh, don't be silly. Yeah. And that was it. And that was it done with. And it was interesting because then our daughter, the next day when I said, how are you feeling? She said, oh, I think I just didn't know what to worry about, Mum. I thought, there you go. Because it's like, I once had this shrink and he said to me, anxiety is your familiar place. It's a familiar, and I was like, what do you mean? No, it's not. No, he said, no, it is. And you will get panicked when you can't find it, and you will want to get back to that, like,
because it releases a hormone.
Because it's that beat. No, and it's familiar. And when it goes, it's like having the carpet taken out from underneath you. So that familiar beat for you has gone. So you've moved it to your eye bags, or you've moved it to your whatever. You know, you've moved it this morning because somebody said you looked old on Instagram. So there you are, looking amazing. You've worked your arse off. You've got thick hair. I mean, most people of your age would slice your throat for that. You're sat there in a t-shirt that could easily be mutton, but it's not. And you're worrying because somebody said that you looked 50. Well, and you are a man with 2 first class degrees, you know, a stint in rehab with 24/7 counselling. You've had excellent counselling. You've had excellent CBT. This shit is complicated. You know, it's incredibly simple, but it's incredibly complicated. And it's not as easy for any of us to just go, pull yourself together. Be grateful for what you've got.
So do you think there are more problems regarding body image for women versus men in a relationship? I think they just go unsaid amongst men. I think when I see
I can't know because I don't know what men think. Well, see, I've always thought it's more complex for women because women's bodies are held up more. We see more of them.
But men give up on their bodies. We see tits
everywhere. We see butts everywhere. We sell everything with a woman's body. So it's just not the same. Now, over however long Instagram's been up and running, we've got a very different situation because we are seeing a lot of so-called perfect. I don't like that word.
But when I see men on sort of like the football terraces and stuff like that, and you see the beer guts and you see this sort of, you know, this drift that happens in a lot of men, and I'm going to relate this to a moment in a relationship. I won't name the relationship, but I had a relationship with a woman, and she made a big thing when we were first together of the fact that the boyfriend before me was a bodybuilder, incredibly ripped and what have you.
God, I bet that was good for you.
It was horrendous. And I remember one time I was in a cinema, sort of watching a film, she put her hand on my stomach. And she said, oh, you're putting on the weight there, aren't you? And I went, I didn't say anything.
But to be fair, she might have been saying that because you were drinking a lot.
Might have been. But I saw a photograph of myself at that time.
You were skinny.
And I was as thin as I was in that photograph in Ibiza.
No, she was trying to get you to stop drinking. Well, I know what girlfriend it was. She was trying to get you to stop drinking. But you would have been in denial and you wouldn't have wanted to.
That has stuck with me all my life.
Interesting.
All my life. So when you...
How many girls have said to you how gorgeous you are?
When you put your hand on my stomach in the car, I am forever taken back to that moment in the cinema.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Well, what I would say is, and this is what we both do, is like now, like if you get hold of me and that's a fat bit, I just let it be, that's a bit. But you put a force field around you. Like if I put my hand on you, it's like you do, like you panic. I feel the panic. And these are those things.
Judgment.
If you go back
I'm worried about being judged. I'm worried about however kind a person you are, there'll be an element of you thinking there's a bulge there, or it's not quite as toned there, or...
But what I would say to both of us is that when human beings do that to another human being, the other human being goes, what? Yeah. And it would be something that wouldn't be noticed because it's a person that loves you. Now, I'm saying this exactly to myself as well, not just to you. This is what we both do. And if we go back to the beginning of this conversation where we talked about the wall, that's a physical wall that starts happening. Oh, right, if I go and sit on this person, are they going to feel me here? Are they going to feel me? Well, don't be with that. You're not ready to be with another person. That's what I would say. You're not ready. If somebody's listening to this, you're not ready. Work this stuff out if you possibly can before you get in a relationship, because you can be really vulnerable. If you haven't got a really kind person, you could be really vulnerable to be being manipulated, I think, because when you show that low self-esteem to somebody, it's very, you become very malleable to that person.
I never understand those relationships, and I hear them sometimes. I never understand those relationships where there's a kind of currency of dialogue between the two in a couple in front of the kids, where they diminish each other's physicality in front of them.
Somebody said that to us the other day, didn't they, on a live? And they said their husband says it to them all the time, and I was just like...
I mean, I could never imagine saying in front of the girls, God, you've put a bit of weight on, love, to you, or something along those lines. I just couldn't imagine doing it. And my granddad would say that, in that accent. Oh, Phil, you've put a little bit of...
Did he say that to him?
Yeah. He'd say it to his children. Oh, well, my nan would say it, and so there was this kind of accepted thing that you can fat shame people, and when you hear it within relationships, I know we're a bit...
all those terribly posh women I've seen in the gym when I've been having a coffee, and you can see that they are having to keep their bodies to a certain standard for their for their
for their husband. Oh, right. Yeah. But yesterday, for example.
Stressful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yesterday, for example, we were photographing you as like a virgin, and you kept, I thought more than you would have, I was surprised, you kept apologising. I know you were doing it lightheartedly, but you were apologising afterwards that you didn't match up to the image of... Now,
no, but I didn't feel bad. No, but it was really funny. But so basically we were doing a mock-up of a Madonna cover of Like a Virgin.
Go to Nadia's Instagram.
And Mark was getting really excited, and you could see he was going, oh yeah, put it in. And
but it takes me back to the time when I was doing my press-ups and hiding my bad toenail. That's why.
But actually it was a really nice kind of sorry, when I was going, sorry, but this is where we are. This is our life. It wasn't like, oh my God, sorry, I don't look like Madonna. It was more... an acceptance. Now, years ago, that would have been, oh my God, he was really disappointed that I wasn't like Madonna. But where I am now, it's not. And it's really important that people understand I'm not saying I don't care. Yes. Because I think that's a destructive thing. Because I do care. Because I want to look nice and I want to be healthy. And this bit I've still got extra around my belly, I do think about diabetes in my heart. I'm not thinking, oh my God, Mark won't fancy me, or oh my God, I won't look like I'm a successful person in my life, or my girlfriends will judge me. None of that stuff. It's about, where does this take my blood sugar and where does this take my heart? But actually, I feel beautiful, I feel loved, I feel fancied, I feel all those things. And I can say all that, having done a lot of work on my stinking thinking. But it's there, like you say in AA, my dis-ease is doing press-ups always. Like a couple of days ago, I had a packet of open biscuits there. Could I bloody stop eating them? No, I couldn't. So for the next few days, I slip into that hating myself a bit. Why did I do that? Why did I have those biscuits? Well, you fucking had the biscuits. Let go of it.
If we could change one thing about each other's attitude to our own body image, what would it be? I think with you, I'd like you to wear less. I'd like you to wear less and be more adventurous and not be at all worrying about how you look. Because I know you do. I know you do in some instances.
You are no less than me. Yeah. No, you are no less than me.
I'm already thinking. I went to the mirror last night and I literally sort of pulled up my top and I was looking, thinking, how do I feel about being by a swimming pool or on the beach? I mean, that's very important.
Agony. We're coming to summer now.
It's agony.
And how many women and men, and men now we have to say as well, are dreading the summer. The summer, which should be the summer. We're going to the beach. We're going to Cornwall. We're going to get in the swimming pool. And although I am now much more confident, I am still thinking, right, okay, well, I can't wear that because it won't be nice for the girls to see and it won't be nice for Mark to see, it won't be nice. And still, I know deep down it's not nice. Do you know what I mean? To show that my legs look like corned beef and like this and like that. So, but I'm going to brave it. But I would say exactly the same to you. I don't want you running around naked though, because I don't like people running around.
I don't want to run around.
No, because you said you want me to be like.
No. But I quite liked you getting ready like a Virgin album. There was something in that was And I wasn't talking about the Madonna side of it. I was quite enjoying your side of it, even with the Sainsbury's bag.
But anyway. I would say the same. It's like, I wish you would just be, because you never look comfortable. You always feel like you're just hiding a bit, and it just frustrates me for you, like it does for you, for me. It's just don't. I love you. Take this one thing that you really don't need to worry about. It's like, who are you worrying about will see you?
Everyone.
And so the people that don't know you, what are you worried they will think and say about you?
Well, often it's because I'm married to you. So, I mean, most people with anyone who's famous in any sort of, we don't think of you in those terms, but you are, unfortunately. But, you know, it's very hard for those around a famous person to not assume that you are only understood as the adverb alongside, or the pronoun rather, the pronoun alongside your name. So it's Nadia Sawalha's husband and it's Nadia Sawalha's kids. It's very hard. It's a part of being in a relationship with someone like you. There is a part that doesn't actually help anyone's self-esteem. And so it's a really important thing you say there. So for example, when we've been on holiday abroad in the past, just say this briefly, I mean, we're getting to the end, but when we've been on a holiday in the past, I'm not necessarily always just thinking about me. I'm thinking, I don't want those people who know that it's her to be thinking, good God, look at her husband. That's what I'm thinking.
Isn't it ridiculous? It's like
it
me,
is ridiculous,
like being a person off the telly and feeling absolutely naked at all times, because I can see people taking photographs and I can see people sniggering and I can see people talking. So I've had decades of that. And actually now, this is why I'm so glad that I have done photos on Instagram, that I have been on a billboard in my pants for loose women. And now it's like, do what you will, think what you will, because I've taken the power. And just because I'm off the telly doesn't mean that people can't do that themselves as well. Like, I think it would be a really good thing for you to do that on your Instagram, because then it's done. You're just owning it. Not standing, not posing. This is me. This is me, a 50-year-old man that works out, that does worry about the way I look, and I'm sick and tired of it, and I just want to change it. And I would say that to any listener. Just do it in your own way. Find a way that you just, all of your fears, you just get them done and get them out of the way. And then it's like, oh, you know, like when something's really nagging you, like a bill or like something like that, and you do it and you think, why didn't I just fucking do that before? People could just, and that's why I say to women, do it on your Instagram and tag me in and I'll repost it. And somebody the other day did it and it'd taken her all week, and her kids had said not to do it and don't do it and and she did it and she felt amazing.
I'm going to take the trousers off. If you like what you've seen and heard,
okay,
say you like it. There we go. Is that what you mean?
Bye guys.
Is that what you mean?
Bye guys.